Yesterday, I saw a video of a guy telling from the front of the room, big banners behind him demonstrating how important he was, telling about 5 or 6 other well-known, some past, some current, motivational speakers. And he rattled off 5 or 6 quotes from this guy and 5 or 6 quotes from this guy and 5 or 6 quotes from this guy. And they were all brilliant quotes. And then he stopped and he said, do you know what they all have in common? They have a story. They have a story that they tell to make their points. And I thought, yeah, of course they do. Because otherwise they would just be telling facts, and that would be boring, and no one would go to see them speak or want to read their books, because bleh. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and it has become a common thing for anyone who can communicate even just a little bit to say, I am a storyteller. Well, yes, you are. In fact, I'm willing to say that 100% of the people watching this video right this second, 100% of you are storytellers. There, I said it. The thing you've got to understand, though, is that when I work with a client around the idea of storytelling, the first question I always ask someone who says, I have a story to tell, is why? Why? Why do you have a story to tell? And of course, that question is almost as dangerous as what do you want, because why do you have a story to tell could mean, what happened in your life that gave you a story worth telling? Or why do you feel like you have to tell your story? Are you just trying to get something off your chest? Or why do you feel like you have to tell your story? Is it because you feel like other people knowing what you went through will change their life? Now, all of those are valid reasons for telling a story, but none of them make you necessarily a motivational speaker or a leader or an author or a teacher. They may all be true, and they all may contribute to that success, but let me tell you something that I have learned in the number of times that I've either spoken publicly about storytelling, or I've worked one-on-one with people in a coaching session, some of them 6, 9 months, or even longer coaching sessions, working with clients one-on-one and telling stories. Your story, much to the dismay of many people, your most important story is not your elevator pitch. Your most important story is not the one you use to paint the anecdotal picture of the lesson that you want to teach. Those are important stories. Those are very important stories. And if they're not crafted well, the emotional connection between you and your audience isn't going to exist. The ability to identify the avatar in the audience who's relative to that story, it's not going to be there. The ability to carry relevance for what you find to be important to your audience, without those stories, it's not going to exist. A story is how you build know, like, and trust. It's how you build confidence for people to listen to you. Very, very important, but not the most important story that you'll ever tell. The one that gets you the $50,000 keynote speech, the one that gets your book sold through the publisher and distributed all over the world, the one that gets your TED Talk listened to 1 million times, the one that gets you on the NBC News. Not the most important story. They might function in that way, but they are not the most important story. Here's what I do know to be true. In all of those hours of coaching, all of those opportunities to sit down face to face with someone to help them craft their story, we find little words dangling out there in the midst of their stories, thoughts and feelings and attitudes about life, about themselves. Words that really, literally define the who that they are. And sometimes those words are unhealthy. Sometimes those words depict to others outside them what they themselves don't see. They depict a negative self-image. They depict pride and arrogance or self-deprecation. They have their own sense of self-hatred. And it drips from their stories in just one or two random words. They have pain in their life they've never dealt with, and it comes across in those stories. They have resentment, they have anger, they have bitterness, they have rage. And these words, they just kind of hang in the story like grass burrs in your socks. And people may from a distance admire your socks, but the minute they touch them and find those grass burrs, you jump and they jump and no one wants to go any further. No, the most important story that you will ever tell, it's not your brand story, it's not your elevator pitch, it's not your marketing story, it's not your favorite podcast, it's not the opening story of your book, bestseller or otherwise. It's none of those. It's the story you tell inside your head to you, about you. Because the truth is, you'll never, ever, 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 ever squeeze a pineapple hard enough to get ketchup out of it, because it's not in there. No banana tree, regardless of the amount of effort put forth, will produce oranges. It can't. Because the fruit comes from the root. And the root of your life is the stories you tell yourself when you're driving on the road, when you're combing your hair, when you're shaving your face, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're thoroughly convinced no one else is around, and you look at yourself in the mirror and go, wow, I'm fat. Or, wow, I am such a stud. Or, I'm so depressed today. Or, I'm really angry about. Or, I can't believe she said that. See, those are the stories that change your life. Those are the stories that will either make you a success or bring about your demise. Those are the stories that are either good mental health or they're not. And from that root, you will tell stories in your books, on your stages, on your podcast, and your videos. From that root, you will produce either great mental health in others, or you'll deliver to them the pain and the anguish and the ill mental health that you're still fighting with on the inside. My job as a speech coach, as a leadership coach, braided together, is to understand that no one who stands on the stage stands there in a vacuum. You can't deliver in authenticity and integrity what isn't already inside you. And if you don't work on what's inside you, what you give from the platform will be damaging to others. The most important story you tell is not your brand story. It's not your podcast story. It's not your TED Talk story. It's not your opening story in your book or the opening story in your monologue. No, the best, most important, most radically necessary to transform story you'll ever tell is the one you're telling yourself. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.